Thing number three, Gary, we're going to Bitcoin. Bitcoin and a test of strength. Tell us more.
All right. So everybody who follows Bitcoin knows that, it wasn't that long ago that Bitcoin had an all-time high. I want to say 73, 74,000. Over the weekend, it dropped below 55,000. Now, if we're taking a step back, right? If a year ago you would have said to Bitcoin holders, Bitcoin's going to be at 55,000 next year, everyone would have said, great, that's fantastic. If on Jan 1 of this year, people would have said, you're going to have Bitcoin at 55,000 halfway through the year, we would have said, okay, great. That's terrific. We're happy with that. But, there's been this big decline recently. And at the end of last week and rolling into the weekend, we had a lot of downwards volatility. Some of it's been made back. But let's talk about the reasons. I think there are two big things going on, but they're both temporary. One is the infamous Mt. Gox saga is nearing its conclusion. It's taken a decade to sort this out. If just a reminder, there are 127,000 creditors that are going to receive about 142,000 Bitcoin starting in July. There is this sense that, they've all been waiting, and once they get their 142,000 Bitcoin, they're going to instantly sell. I don't know that I agree with that. Those were people who have had every opportunity to sell their interest. They could have sold their interest in the Mt. Gox thing. Now, could they receive it and then sell? Sure, they could. But even if they do, that's a one-time event. The other thing that happened is the German government has been causing some turbulence. We read that they offloaded about 10,000 Bitcoin in recent weeks. I think it started on June 19th. So this has been going on for, about 2-3 weeks. And then the really interesting thing is, and credit to DKI intern Alex, who sent me this over the weekend. Apparently, the German government reversed course and they bought something like $100 million of Bitcoin. So they bought it back. And then I don't know if this is true or not, but there were stories on Twitter or X today that the German government was selling more Bitcoin. So at the end of the day, I do not know how much Bitcoin the German government owns as of today. I don't know how much they're going to own a year from now. There are going to be sovereign nations that have an interest in buying Bitcoin and selling Bitcoin. Truthfully, I don't understand why all of these governments who are printing trillions of dollars of worthless fiat don't just print more trillions of dollars of worthless fiat and buy Bitcoin and gold. I mean, if you had a printing press, wouldn't you just run the paper mill and buy Bitcoin and gold? But anyway, the point of all this is, even if we assume the German government sold that 10,000 Bitcoin, and then again, there were stories that they bought some back, they sold it again, they still own something like 37,000 Bitcoin. Now, as a reminder, the current supply is over 19 million. We're approaching 21 million, max supply of 21 million. At the end of the day, is this a big deal? No, it's short-term trading noise.
Gary, I know we've seen some recent price pullbacks with Bitcoin, a little bit of market jitters. You want to talk about those and make sure people don't forget Bitcoin ETFs. Why is that, and why are you focusing more attention there versus what seems to be these just one-time occurrences?
Because the Bitcoin ETFs had billions and billions of dollars of inflows. They set records for most inflows. And now, I think, I don't want to get the credit wrong. I think it was Jim Bianco on Twitter or X. It was either last week or over the weekend. He put out a really interesting thread, and his thesis, and he had some great charts to support it, was that the Bitcoin ETFs didn't actually bring in new money. And I think he did a good job supporting it. Um, his point is that people expected that the Bitcoin ETFs were going to bring in, the baby boomers, the older people who have a lot of wealth but aren't comfortable holding digital assets and self-custody. They want to see it in their brokerage account. And that there was going to be all this new money coming in and money from pension funds. And, maybe some of that may still happen. As a reminder, pension funds, they don't move quickly. Right? These guys evaluate their exposures a couple of times a year. They'll move in slowly. Surrounding the ETF creation, there was the Bitcoin dollar price went up a lot into that approval. It went down a little bit after the approval, but then shortly after started to go up again to reach all-time highs. So I don't know. There does seem to be increasing interest. The price is higher, and the ETFs have gotten really big. I just want to be cautious on this again because I think Jim Bianco did a really good job showing it. What's really happening there are people are taking Bitcoin off of the exchanges like Coinbase or Kraken, or out of self custody, and they're putting that Bitcoin in their brokerage account. So basically, they're selling self custody Bitcoin and buying ETFs. He could be right on that. My counsel to everybody is do the opposite. Get your Bitcoin off the exchanges, get your Bitcoin out of the ETFs, and learn to self custody. For people who are interested, just put a note in the comments. We've published a guide to self custody. I understand that it can be scary to send Bitcoin from one place to another. There's no help desk. You can't call 1-800-Bitcoin. There's nobody to talk you through it. But we've written a guide to it that makes things as simple as, fill in this box, click this button. It's all annotated. We make it really simple for people. And I would just encourage people that if you're to have some money outside of the system, I would encourage people to learn how to self-custody. Again, if you want to know, put it in the comments. We'll get you a link to it, and that information is all out in public and really easy to follow. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The other thing I would add, Rob, is that I think the temperament of the long-term Bitcoin holders is phenomenal for investors. This is the most long-term diamond hands community in the world, right? The Hodlers, as they're jokingly called. Their view is, well, who cares if Bitcoin goes down? We'll just buy more, right? These are the best dollar cost averagers in the world. Like we don't care. When it goes down, we'll buy more. We're not selling. And I do think that will win out long term. Certainly there's, been some short-term volatility. I'm not selling. I don't intend to. Nobody I know is selling. If you're going to own this, just be prepared for a lot of volatility and think long term.